I was just pulling Jahnavi's leg and finding out whether she uses Spotify or YouTube, and she told me that she is a YouTube person, and so am I. So what the hell are two YouTuber loving people talking about Spotify? So this is an outsider's take for all those people who've been naming and shaming us by saying that, oh, you're not in rural markets, so how can you talk of rural marketing? Yeah, maybe I have a perspective, an outsider's perspective, which is as equally important as an insider's perspective. But I would love to know what your take on is about this topic. So, Janavi, why don't you set us up?
Right. And before we begin, I think it has a huge relevance as to non consummate Spotify users.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, because YouTube Music is one of the major competitors for Spotify, and more on that later. But 2024 was last year was Spotify's first full profit year,
Yeah.
uh, for about around 1.14 billion euros that they gained in net profits,
Yeah.
right? And in general, Spotify enjoys around 31% of worldwide music streaming subscribers, which whereas the other streaming platforms like Apple Music, Prime Music, and YouTube Music, of course, hold around 10 to 15% share. So a big margin. So now I think we are here to talk about why Spotify has grown, what has made it grow, what has made it into the lovable platform it is, where it is in comparison to its competitors, and what can we take away from the user experience of Spotify.
So let's praise Spotify first before damning it, right? Shall we do that? Okay. I'll tell you, my whole journey with Spotify was because my own podcast called Smarter with Sid, which has over 300 episodes, was on Spotify. So I was looking at Spotify very closely at that point in time. My second experience with Spotify has been that, my kids have been just into Spotify music, and so they have playlists. So they share their playlist whenever we are going on a walk, and so we're having a common listening experience to music, right? The third Spotify thing was that when Joe Rogan switched from YouTube and went Spotify exclusive, was when actually I moved to Spotify to listen to Joe Rogan, because not because I think he's the world's greatest podcaster or anything, but I just thought that it was a habit that I had. Right, I listened to Joe Rogan to fall asleep. Right, so that was the habit. Yeah, because it's just comfortable, bro talk. I'll just go to sleep, and that was how it was moving. So now that you know my deep and dark and dirty secrets, okay, I think that those were my initial movements. Some of it was personal, some of it was a listening experience, but I have never ever understood how Spotify actually has grown so much and become profitable in this year, especially because they've been investing so much money back into the thing that they're trying to do. What do you think?
Correct. So very interesting that you mentioned about the Joe Rogan experience, right? So podcast today consists of around 25% of monthly average users of Spotify. So they've recently started with podcasts and audiobooks now, and they
Yeah.
have a huge library of around what I think 5 million plus podcasts and
Hmm.
around 350,000 something
Yeah.
audiobooks, right? So how Spotify has grown now, first of all, the CEO himself said it was a 15-year long journey
Yeah.
before getting net profitability at all. It was started in 2008, officially launched in 2008. We are on 2024 was the first net profit year,
Yeah.
right? So big patience on the part of the investors and
Sure.
big dedication and vision on the parts of the CXO and the
Yes.
management team,
Yes.
right? The first thing is the penetration was obviously from the freemium market.
Yeah.
Uh, that was a time when you didn't have a lot of platforms where you could listen to music on the go. Either you had the
Yeah.
Apple iPods, or you needed some hardware for it, or you had Apple Music that was only compatible with the iOS, right?
Yeah.
So Spotify was platform agnostic. You could play Spotify even on game consoles. It's
Yes.
there on game consoles, right? So that has quite helped the penetration. Secondly, their product features like the discovery features, they
Yeah.
got into the TikTok style UGC content, the vertical content, right? Then the daily mixes, the release radars. They started a Spotify radio, your top 10 lists,
Yeah.
So Spotify has consistently kept on improving and making their product more interactive. There is always something new that you find the moment you go to Spotify.
Hmm.
Either it is your favorite mixes, or you can even connect with your friends, share playlists. There is a collaborative playlist features. So it's not just your passive music listening platform that your Prime is, or Apple Music is, or even your YouTube is. It is a shared experience. And in this era of social networking, a music platform, music being a personal identity of a person, right? As close as you can get to what your subconscious feels, what your moods are like, and being able to share that with your closest friends, maybe a couple, maybe your family,
Yeah.
through the family plans. So at each and every touch point of your life or of your mood throughout the day, Spotify has something special for you.
Yeah.
It is very obvious that it gets integrated throughout your day in whatever you do.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. What you're doing is that you're connecting experiential points, and identity understanding with what Spotify is doing. I used to you made me think a little differently right now based upon what your points are. I used to always think that Spotify is coming up with features which are not really interconnected with each other at some point in time. Like, for example, let me tell you what, like, I struggle to understand the difference between Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music when it comes to music.
Mm.
I actually struggle to understand that, right? So now, by the way, guys, we are now into the panning side of Spotify. While we should celebrate whatever Spotify has done, because we need more competition to YouTube and Apple in that sense. So Spotify has broken through the Apple ecosystem, which is good, and Spotify has posed itself as a very strong and good emerging competitor to YouTube, which is again good, because we should never be celebrating the lack of competition. Now, what I'm trying to understand over here is what, why, what is the differentiating factor in music, right? So it's habit, right? So when it comes to habit, so what's the reason why I've gone in onto Spotify? If the reason is frivolous, like because my kid is sharing some playlist with me, or because my own podcast is there, those are
Mm.
frivolous reasons to actually go and become part of the whole ecosystem. I think the more deeper reason would be, yeah, I listen to Spotify because of the music, or I go to Spotify because of the podcast or whatever, right? And then you have an entry point, and then you can grow the way in which you're doing. I think YouTube has done a way better job than Spotify in actually expanding your listening experience, right? From just one core category to the others. Because
Yeah.
you know something, Janavi, and I keep saying this to all of the students that I've got, is that just because it's a listening experience doesn't mean that it's the same experience, because as you correctly said, music is connecting to the subconscious, but an audiobook is connecting a lot with your prefrontal cortex, which is directly, logically trying to process, especially non-fiction books. Or then
Yeah.
podcasts are probably doing something else to your brain. So categorizing and lumping them as just listening experiences is not such a good idea, actually. And I think that if you have to grow from one experience to the other, you have to understand your customer journey from that perspective.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
doesn't
yeah.
make sense.
And yeah, and in this regard, for surely the listening experience, I think YouTube Music has topped the charts. And it goes to show that YouTube Music was the fastest growing music platform last year. Right. And considering that they have recently shifted, actually YouTube Music is very new, right? It is. I
It is.
think they had some other platform, Google Play Music or something, that now they have incorporated into YouTube Music. So number one, all of the things that I want, I can listen to it on the go. I have the premium feature, which is fairly cheap. I mean, YouTube is already a part of my life, anyways. I am
Yeah.
at least any Tom, Dick, and Harry in this world is spending at least 10 to 15 minutes a day on YouTube, be
Yes.
it on YouTube Music or be it normal YouTube. So integrating the same thing, plus you have features like remixes. You have a lot of UGC content that you can listen to even on YouTube Music.
Yeah.
So music has made it an entire ecosystem of just a listening experience rather than a surely music focused experience, which is something that even Spotify is doing with its podcasts.
So, but,
And
but the starting point of the journey is very different. Like Spotify has
yeah,
moved from music to
yeah,
podcasts and to other things, while YouTube has moved from content through
yeah.
to maybe podcasts and music and stuff like that. So the starting point of the journey is probably very important because that is setting expectations about the platform for you. Like for example, just because Instagram and TikTok have similar features because they're copying each other, or whatever Instagram's copying TikTok, does not mean that the platforms are the same. The meaning, as you said correctly, the personal identity that I am associating with that platform becomes really, really critical.
Agreed. But here I'd like to add one point on the ownership of the platform. Now, on YouTube, the ownership is always with YouTube, and you as a listener are merely a listener.
Yeah.
But on Spotify, you are equally interacting. You are building your playlists. You are building viral playlists. You are contributing as a creator. You are making your own podcasts. Plus, there is a lot of network effect. What your friends are listening to, you want to listen to the playlists that maybe an artist is listening to, right? So YouTube doesn't give you that kind of a feature. YouTube will just give you what Celine Dion's songs are,
Yes.
but Spotify will tell you what Celine Dion is listening to, and
Yes.
that is something as a user or as a frequent music listener or somebody who loves Celine Dion would want to know. So it is a shared experience that I'm getting from Spotify, which is, I think, their main USP, their differentiating factor that none of the other music streaming platforms have been able to either copy or hasn't been a part of their model at all.
Mm. No, this is interesting. Janavi, are you going to shift to Spotify because of what you just said? Have you ended up convincing yourself?
I don't like Spotify ads. Every 30 seconds they have an ad.
Well, that's okay because you're not on Spotify Premium, and but you might be on YouTube Premium, so you have to compare apples to apples. I don't know if
Yeah,
you.
actually, yes. That reminds me of one more thing. For YouTube, I mean, if you're a frequent YouTube watcher, if you spend your time watching videos or podcasts or whatever, chances are you would have purchased a YouTube Premium service,
Yes.
and that is there for your YouTube and your YouTube Music. Now,
Yes.
this is where Spotify actually faces the problem, because Spotify Premium service is only for music. It'll be different for podcast, it'll be different for audiobooks. So for one platform, I am paying multiple tiers of payments just to listen to their different features.
No, I agree that it is certainly feature driven pricing, which is what the problem I think I'm having with Spotify. If I think about it, it's not a holistic experience somehow, which YouTube seems to be having for me at the moment. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, what is it? What is the takeaway for somebody who's like not in the media sector, or somebody who's like trying to figure out, what? Okay, so these guys have spoken so much. I think the takeaway for me would be about the personal identity thing that you've spoken of and how well it connects with whatever your offering is. Because if you look at the closer and deeper your offering is really important. What is your take?
I see. I completely agree with you on the identity takeaway.
Yeah.
Music builds your identity of whatever product you want to build. The ownership of the user or the consumer will come from how much you are able to mechanize their identity within your product.
Yes.
My takeaway will be, at every touch point of a consumer journey, how can you enhance the experience that it's not just a one-way street, but it is a two-way loyalty.
Perfect. And although I'm wondering whether YouTube is so, if YouTube is a different kind of experience and Spotify is a different kind of experience, and may both live and succeed and fight with each other to the death or whatever it is. But I think we should continue this conversation because it's a fairly deep conversation. Maybe we'll have a part two somewhere, and we'll include some other platforms in as
Yeah.
well. Okay. All right. Thank you, Janavi.
Yeah.